I will never stop searching for the lost. I will never stop rejoicing when one is found. To me, this is the best definition of God. God is personal. God loves me dearly. And God seeks me out when I am lost. God doesn't wait for me to seek them out. God seeks me out when I'm lost. I just have to acknowledge that God is guiding me. And what's more, God also seeks others out, especially the lost. God isn't just for the rich or the faithful or even just for Christians. God seeks all people out. And then on top of that, God rejoices when the lost are found. God is not a stern God, incapable of joy. God is a deeply compassionate and joyful being. I will never stop searching for the lost. I will never stop rejoicing when one's found. According to historians, one of the earliest depictions in art of the Christian God is the image of a shepherd with a sheep on his shoulder. You could see this image carved in various places throughout the ancient world. This early depiction of God attracted many people to Christianity. Ancient gods had good sides and bad sides to them. They often had tempers and were capable of great cruelty. They often had to be appeased with sacrifices or good deeds. The Christian God, the Good Shepherd, was a saving God. For women, who in the ancient world were property of their husbands, the Good Shepherd was a liberator for slaves. The Good Shepherd was a provider for the poor. The Good Shepherd brought peace and justice for marginalized people. But here's the thing. I don't think an appealing image of God is enough for the marginalized and the poor to become Christian. These people needed to experience the Good Shepherd in a community of believers. They need the experience of welcome, support, unconditional love, understanding, forgiveness, and compassion. Many of you have shared what this faith community means for you. Our understanding of God is no different than many other Christian churches, and yet you commit to journeying and growing with this community. You've done so because you've experienced the Good Shepherd in each other. And you've revealed the Good Shepherd's love to those around you and to visitors and many, many others. Good for you. Now, I want to make clear that our love for others will not be as perfect as the Good Shepherd, as you know. I don't think any of us will love the most vulnerable and marginalized with the same reckless and foolish abandon as God does. We're so very limited. But we can try in our own ways to seek the lost and never stop rejoicing when one is found. So how do we seek the lost? I think it starts with understanding that we too sometimes feel lost. Not knowing the road ahead, moving to another country, starting from scratch, having a child and not knowing how to raise one, being diagnosed with an illness and not knowing if you'll get through it, losing a job, feeling lonely and unloved, losing a loved one and not knowing how to live without them. We all know what it's like to feel lost. And somehow, through it all, we found our way. For many of you, it's because you have faith. You trust that God will never leave your side and God will guide you always. This is the faith that we are called to share with others. This is the good news that Jesus came to preach. We show people by our lives that we can get lost from time to time. We show people by our lives that when we are lost, God guides us. We show people by our lives that God guides us in the scriptures, in wisdom found in many sources, in people of goodwill and signs, emotions, and careful discernment. We show people by our lives that the way out isn't always easy, but there is salvation and new life. We show people by our lives that hope and goodness never stop searching for the lost. We show people by our lives that joy is found when we find our way. Over the years, I've been blessed to hear and witness by your lives the Good Shepherd who never stops searching for the lost and who never stops rejoicing when one is found. Sunday after Sunday, we gather to reaffirm this good news. We renew our faith in the Good Shepherd, and with that renewed faith, we are empowered to live it out and share that same compassion and joy with others. This is why I find it so difficult to hear politicians, everyday citizens, and even people who speak in the name of God reject empathy. On Thursday, I was listening to Alberta at Noon. It's a CBC radio call-in program. The topic was how listeners felt about tax cuts promised by each party leader. The difference between parties, as you know, has to do with how much the tax cut is and who gets the tax cut. We all understand how tax cuts can be beneficial. They enable individual citizens to decide for themselves how they are to spend, save, or pay down debt. It gives freedom to each citizen to decide rather than the state to decide for them. Some good so far as to believe taxes should be as low as possible to enable greater freedom. I recall one caller's comment who said, income taxes should be eliminated. He said, "After all, why should anyone be punished for working hard?" Not long after that, another caller called in, made a comment. She was irritated at that comment and felt the need to remind listeners the responsibility we all have to pay taxes for services, especially for the most vulnerable people in society. She reminded listeners that we as Canadians share values of kindness, tolerance, equity, and rule of law. And those values should be reflected in government decisions. It seems to me that those Canadian values also happen to be Christian values, particularly kindness, compassion, patience, mercy, forgiveness, generosity, and joy. We are loved by the Good Shepherd who shows these many values, and we commit to following him. And so let us take seriously our duty to vote and judge our leaders by our values, not by our fears. Last week, Pastor Aaron Linville shared a letter to our Moravian family, calling on us to maintain our Christ-like presence in our time of election. He reminds us of the ground of unity's call for us to remain concerned for the world, and the Moravian Covenant for Christian Living, which states we are to faithfully fulfill the responsibilities of our citizenship, among which are intelligent and well-informed voting. He reminds us of what else the covenant states, that is, through giving our loyalty to the state of which we are citizens, we do recognize a higher loyalty to God, the Good Shepherd, and our conscience. To apply to today's gospel, we're called to be loyal to the Good Shepherd who seeks the lost and rejoices over us. We are called to witness by voting for candidates who lead with compassion, generosity, and joy. We don't expect every candidate or every party to be perfect, but we can certainly use our Christian values to discern whether or not a candidate or party is more or less aligned with them. Do policies reflect God's first command to humanity, that is, to care for the earth? Do policies uphold the fundamental rights of all people, given that we are made in the image and likeness of God? Do policies reflect Christ's call to love the least of these? Do policies reflect Christ's mission to proclaim good news to the poor, release to prisoners, recovery of sight to the blind, and liberation to the oppressed? Do candidates and policies demonstrate the fruits of the Spirit? As you pray and discern which candidate and party best reflects your Christian values, may you have the image of the Good Shepherd in mind. The Good Shepherd who never stops searching for the lost and who will never stop rejoicing when one is found.